So the need is for context. And so I want to bring a new context here. You, like John, I talked about in the beginning of this story, as biographer. You as the person who's learned more about their life and who they are than anyone they've ever met. Isn't it flattering when people want to know about you? Have you had that experience before? You know what makes me sad is that after I ask that question, I'm often approached by advisors who come to me and say, Mitch, to be honest with you, I've never had anyone do that with me. Never take the time to learn about me and learn my story. Do you realize where significance comes from? Do you know that significance doesn't just come from doing? It comes from telling the story of what we've done. Think about older people. What do they like to do? You see, most of the doing is done now, isn't it? So what do they like to do? They like to tell the story of what's been done. That's where their significance is derived. The problem is we don't have enough listeners or inquirers, enough biographers. So the context I want to paint today is you as biographer, you as the person who wants to know who they are and why they are, who learns more about them than anybody they've ever met, and it will create this powerful force around you. And I've got news for you. Before I'm done today, I'm going to underscore for you the two forces in this world that cause money to move toward you. One of them is very practical in nature and can be exercised through the right question. And one of them is very emotional/spiritual in nature and can also be exercised through the right questions. But I'm going to underscore these two forces that cause money to move toward you in a very genuine and authentic way. And before I go any further, I have nothing to do with systems, ploys, or sales tactics. I've always believed there's more money to be made by being a genuine human being who cares for others and helps them solve their problems than any other fashion. Do you agree with me? That's where the money's made. We don't need to play games with people. How many of you recognize when you're being set up in a conversation? Well, why wouldn't they recognize it? Why would we ever want to go down that path? And so here's the biographer's approach. I'm a writer by trade. And so if my job was to write your life story, here's how I'd set about it. I would frame that story in 4 sections: history, transitions, principles, and goals. In the history section of my interview, while I'm playing my recorder and I'm asking you questions, I'm going to find everything out I can about your past and what shaped you, the blueprint of you, how it was formed. And do you believe that our blueprints are formed early in life? Right? And mom and dad and the realities we live with and the experiences we go through, they have an awful lot to do with who we become later. And the transitions are, what are the major defining events that have happened in your life? And how did you navigate through those? And how did you meet those challenges? And how did you meet those opportunities? And the principles are, how do you make your decisions? Whose example do you follow? Who have been your role models? And the goals are about, what do you want to do when you grow up someday? How do you finish this movie called The Story of My Life? How do you know it's done? If my job was to write your life story, that's the framework to get the picture of you. Picture a frame with history, principles, transitions, and goals. And now we have a picture of a human being.